An ancient martial art born in Japan, refined by samurais and passed down over generations, but today it's not widely known as a Japanese martial art. So what happened? How did this art, once rooted in the warrior traditions of Japan, travel across the ocean and transform into something completely new and unstoppable on the streets of Brazil? This is the thrilling journey of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, from the battlefields of Japan to the heart of Brazil, from the samurai to the legendary Gracie family and beyond. The story of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu begins in Japan, where the roots of Jiu-Jitsu were first planted. Hundreds of years ago, Japanese warriors called samurais needed a way to defend themselves when they were unarmed or when their swords were not available. This is where traditional Jiu-Jitsu was born. It was a system of techniques focused on grappling, joint locks and throws. The goal was to subdue an opponent quickly, using leverage and technique rather than strength. Jiu-Jitsu was developed to be effective in close combat situations, with an emphasis on using the opponent's energy against them. This made it an ideal fighting system for samurais who were often trained in a variety of weaponry but needed a backup method for fighting when no weapons were at hand. In the late 19th century, a man named Jigoro Kano took the traditional techniques of Jiu-Jitsu and refined them, creating a modern sport, Judo. Kano's goal was to make Judo safer and more structured, while still preserving the practical fighting techniques of Jiu-Jitsu. Judo focused heavily on throws and groundwork, and Kano emphasized the importance of using an opponent's energy against them. While Judo was still based on many of the same principles as Jiu-Jitsu, it had a different approach, especially when it came to competition. Kano's Judo gained popularity and spread internationally, but it was his student Mitsuyo Maeda who would play a crucial role in the history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mitsuyo Maeda was a skilled Judo practitioner and a man on a mission. In the early 20th century, Kano sent Maeda abroad to spread Judo, and he traveled to many parts of the world. Maeda eventually made his way to Brazil, a country that was just beginning to embrace martial arts. In Brazil, Maeda settled in the city of Belém and began teaching Judo and Jiu-Jitsu to a small group of students. Among these students was a young man named Carlos Gracie. Carlos, along with his brothers, was fascinated by Maeda's teachings, but it wasn't just about learning techniques for them, it was about adapting the art and making it their own. Carlos and his family, especially his younger brother, Helio Gracie, started to experiment with Maeda's techniques, tweaking them to fit their own bodies and styles. The Gracies, who were smaller and weaker than many of their competitors, began to focus on using leverage and technique rather than strength and size. This was the key difference that would set their version of Jiu-Jitsu apart. As Carlos and Helio Gracie began to refine the techniques they learned from Maeda, they made some important changes that would eventually lead to the creation of a completely new martial art. They focused on adapting Judo and traditional Jiu-Jitsu moves to emphasize leverage and positioning over strength and power. This made their system more accessible to people of all sizes and strengths, and it soon became clear that their version of Jiu-Jitsu was not only effective but revolutionary. Helio Gracie, in particular, played a huge role in shaping what we now know as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Being smaller and weaker than most of his opponents, Helio had to find ways to defend himself without relying on physical strength. He spent countless hours experimenting with different techniques, refining them until he created a system that allowed anyone, regardless of size, to control and submit an opponent using skill, timing, and leverage. The Gracies started to teach this new version of Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil, and it quickly gained attention. But they didn't just teach it, they also tested it. As Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu developed, the Gracie family played a key role in its growth. They became famous for issuing public challenges, inviting anyone to test their martial art against the Gracies. These challenges proved BJJ's effectiveness, as the Gracies defeated opponents from various fighting styles. As word spread, more people started training in BJJ. The Gracies opened academies to teach their techniques, and these schools became the foundation of the modern BJJ community in Brazil. Beyond just teaching combat skills, the Gracies emphasized discipline, respect, and a unique philosophy that made Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu more than just a martial art. It became a lifestyle. BJJ quickly gained popularity and spread across Brazil. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu didn't stay in Brazil for long. It quickly began to spread internationally, especially to the United States. The turning point came with the rise of mixed martial arts, MMA. In 1993, the first Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, UFC was held, and it changed everything. Royce Gracie, a member of the Gracie family, entered the tournament and shocked the world by defeating much larger and stronger opponents, using nothing but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Royce's success in the UFC brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into the spotlight. People saw that BJJ wasn't just effective in street fights or self-defense, it was unbeatable in real combat situations. As a result, more fighters from around the world started to train in BJJ, leading to the martial arts' global explosion in popularity. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is now practiced worldwide, central to MMA and grappling. Its techniques have revolutionized combat sports, with major competitions like the World Championship showcasing top talent. More than just a sport, BJJ is a global community and lifestyle, inspiring millions and continuing to shape martial arts across the globe. Do not forget to subscribe, like and share the video.